let's start again. Okay, I'll start I started recording our class now. So welcome to another 21st century literature from the Philippines and the world class. So the first thing that we will do today is, again, I will be reminding you about the deadlines, the due dates of your activities, and then after we are going to review what we discussed yesterday and proceed to the next one. Okay, proceed to the next part of the lesson. So now let's go to your deadlines. Okay. So I'll be sharing my screen first. Let me share my screen to you. Ganon. Okay. Okay, ayan. So that is your module, but let's go to the Schoology account. So here is your Schoology. What I know is your review nga, and most of you already submitted their what I know part. So okay, so to those who haven't submitted yet, your deadline is on Wednesday. Okay, but for modular students, their deadline is on September 15 pa, since isahan lang naman yung pag-submit nila. So they are given 1 week to finish answering all their modules, all their activities, tapos submit nila September 15. Okay? Now, kasi kayo, blended at online kayo, and you can access the internet, even for modular ha, maka-access ng internet, pwedeng dito sila mag-answer. So your deadline for this is on Wednesday. Okay? Wednesday. Now, we have your short quiz naman. Your short quiz, the deadline for your short quiz is on Thursday. Okay? So again, your short quiz is like this. This is your short quiz. So we have here summary of Filipino short stories. So what you need to do is to identify the qualities of literature emphasized in this short story summary. So, sir, there's a possibility, sir, na nandyan lahat ng qualities. Oo, tama yon. There's a possibility na lahat ng qualities nandito sa summary. But, yung emphasized na quality lang ang inyong hanapin. Doon sa push siya. Yung option nyo ay ang push siya. Okay? So, kasi naka-highlight siya, yan yung gi-emphasize ko na quality. So, yan yung isasagot ninyo. Yung naka-emphasize na quality ng literature. And then, after this one, the next activity, the what can I do is on September 14. Is due on September 14, Monday. So this is the infographic. But one of the students, I think among all the students ko sa literature, one already submitted his infographic, and that is Mr. Makilang. And I'm very happy with the output of Mr. Makilang because it's very simple pero very you hit the goal. Okay, he hit the objective, okay, which is to make an infographic. So this is the infographic of Mr. Makilang. Mr. Makilang, okay, I'll be showing this to your classmates. Okay, so I think the only thing that I could say to this is masyadong maliit lang yung font. Okay, so I think to improve this one, Mr. Makilang could have increased the font, but this is a very amazing output. Congratulations, Mr. Makilang. So this is what we call an infographics, right? So ito yung ginawa ni Mr. Makilang. Oh. Mr. Makilang, what did you use for this?
Canva na app, sir.
Canva.
Canva.
So phone lang siya. Did you just use your phone?
Yes po.
Okay, so you could ask Mr. Makilang to about the app that he used. So Canva daw. Is it easy to use?
Yes po.
Okay, so madali lang daw siya gamitin. So you could also use that app, Canva. Okay, so this is an example of your performance task. Okay, so nandito yung lesson natin. That's very good. Congratulations, Mr. Makilang. And then on Friday is your assessment. So this is just an essay, so a reflection paper. But mind you, everyone, that we are going to follow the standard structure of an essay sa reflection paper, okay? A long essay. So ano ba? Ano ba yung standard natin? 3 paragraph. In each paragraph, 3 to 5 sentences each. Okay? 3 to 5 sentences. Okay, 3 paragraphs, and in each paragraph, there should be 3 to 5 sentences. So that is for your assessment, which is a reflection of what you learned. Okay, and you could use the guide questions as your basis for your answer, for your reflection. Okay, so yon. So okay, what if nakapasa na, sir? No problem. Very good. Kung nakapasa na sa essay ba, Mr. Asda, nakapasa ka na sa essay? Sa assessment? Asda?
Yes, sir, pero 2 paragraphs lang.
2 paragraph lang. Sige, consider na lang natin yan kasi nakapasa ka
Sir,
naman.
saan siya ipapasa, sir?
Doon
Yung
lang sa Schoology
essay.
natin. Doon lang.
Sige po.
Oh, sige. Doon lang ipapasa. Click mo lang yung assessment, tapos doon mo isubmit. Tignan natin ha, para meron kayong view talaga. So, click nyo lang to. Okay. Tapos punta tayo sa questions sa preview. Preview natin. Okay. So, start new attempt kayo kasi this is the student's view. So, ayan. So, pwedeng i-copy-paste nyo na lang siguro para baka kasi hindi stable yung connection ba. So, pwedeng mag-type muna kayo sa notepad or sa phone ninyo, tapos select all, tapos paste nyo lang dito. Okay? Paste nyo lang dito yung essay ninyo. Okay? So, hindi na kailangang hindi na kailangang magawa pa ng file. So, doon na lang sa notepad, or sa phone na messenger ninyo, tapos select all, paste na lang dito. Okay? Para ganun. As easy as that. Okay? And okay, so that is the overview of your submission. Do you have questions about that? Do you have questions regarding your submission?
None.
None. Okay. Sige, thank you very much. I hope you take time also to watch the video. Kung kaya namang tignan, okay, take time to watch the video kasi you can also learn something from this. This is a very short but very informative video. Okay? Now, let's continue with our discussion na. So let's go back here. Okay? Konting-konting review lang talaga tayo dito. So what is literature ba? My bad yesterday because I did not give a formal definition of literature. What I gave were informal definitions of literature. So this is the formal definition, technical definition of literature. Literature broadly refers to the collection of written or oral work, but it's commonly and narrowly refers to an art form, especially prose fiction, drama, and poetry, in contrast to academic writing and newspaper. Okay, tanong. Merong tanong si sir. Written works lang ba ang literature? Written works lang ba ang literature? Miss Ugoy, answer that question. Written works lang ba? Are literatures only written works?
Hindi, sir.
Okay, why?
Ang literature man, sir, hindi naman siya more about sa paggawa ng mga stories like that. Kaya more on exploring man siya sa mga imagination, sir. So, hindi lang siya more on written works.
Okay, good point. And also, based on the definition here, oral works din siya. Okay? Written or oral works. Bakit, sir? Bakit may oral na naman ngayon? Kasi before, hindi pa marunong magsulat ang mga tao, right? So, the way of telling stories is through oral tradition. So, meron ngang culture doon sa Cebu, sa Aklan, na they choose, okay, a tribal culture, that they choose someone to memorize all the stories word by word. And then, yun yung trabaho niya sa kanyang tribe, to tell that stories that she memorized. So, literature could also be oral. And in Africa, in African culture, most of the African people doesn't know how to write, doesn't have a writing system. So their way of telling their literature, their stories, is through speech, is through oral traditions. So that's it. But another question. Ang literature, can we consider academic writing and newspapers? Okay. Can we consider newspapers as literature? Newspapers.
Yeah.
Okay. Newspapers literature ba? Why? Why can you consider it a literature? Let's ask Miss Cortez na lang. Miss Cortez, can you consider newspaper as literature?
Sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. We can consider academic works, academic written works as literature, sir.
Mhm. Okay, why? Why would you consider that as literature?
Kasi, sir, defining literature, di ba, yesterday, we define it as suggestiveness and universality, ganyan, sir. Well, sir, academic papers, newspapers, and other papers have that characteristic, sir. So we can consider them as literature as well.
Okay, very good. So that is correct. We can also consider newspapers and academic writing as literature. Kasi, 'di ba, in our practical research, we have review of related literature. And these literature are not stories, right? They are information. But everyone, okay, yun yung sinabi ko kahapon, 'di ba? We have literature and we have literature. You need to make a division between the two terms. Okay, the same word but different meaning. Literature na non-artistic and literature na artistic. Okay, look at the definition. Refers to writing specifically considered to be an art form. Okay, considered to be an art form. Although we consider academic writing, newspapers, or literature, we usually, most of the time, when we say literature, the thing that will immediately go in our mind is artistic writings. Okay? Artistic writings. So that's the definition of literature we are going to consider in our subject. When we say literature, we will think the artistic forms of literature, not the academic form of literature. Although, literature pa rin yun. Okay? I hope I made that point clear. Okay? Literature pa rin ang newspaper, but here, we consider the artistic definition of literature. Okay? Artistic literature. Okay, let's continue. So ito yung here are other definitions of literature by Filipino authors. So literature is the thoughts and emotions of man. Okay, literature appeals to higher natures, a man's higher nature and needs. So what are your higher nature? So these are your high natures. Okay, through literature, we learn our innermost feelings and thoughts. So it will help you to discover yourself. Now, ano yung criteria for us to identify something as literature or not literature? Okay, what I mean with this is, how do we identify something as artistic literature and non-artistic literature? So here are our bases for identifying artistic literature. Ta-da-dan. Okay, asa na yun? Gunner. Okay, P-U-S-S-I-A. Now, what is P? Mr. Cadete. What's P?
Permanence.
Permanence. How about you, Miss Abram? What's you?
Universality.
Universality. Very good. What's S? What's S, Miss Ugoy? Sorry. What's S, Miss Ugoy?
Suggestiveness po.
Suggestiveness. Very good. And what is another S? The other S? The other S, Mr. Makilang.
Spiritual value, sir.
Spiritual value. How about I, Miss Puton? What is I?
Intellectual value, sir.
Intellectual value. And A is for artistry. Okay, babalikan natin yan after this part. Okay, let's continue first. Tarat, tarat, tarat. Okay, a literary text can be studied in several ways. So we are studying literature, but there are a lot of ways to study a literary text, an artistic text. Okay, paano ba hindi lang parts, hindi lang elements of fiction, hindi lang what is the character, what is the setting, hindi lang ganon. That's not the only way to study literature. We can focus our study in the thematic value. Okay, what is the theme? So do you know what is a theme? What is a theme, Miss Cortez? What do you think is a theme? What is a theme?
Sir, for me, sir, ang theme is like, yung genre niya, sir.
Okay.
Like, for example, ganun, sir. Basta genre niya.
Okay, yung
Ganun,
genre.
certain.
Okay, that's a good point. Okay, thank you very much for that. Yes, that's correct. Okay, pwedeng ganon. Okay, pwedeng ganon. Okay? Theme, the genre. But theme is the universal, it's what the story is all about. Okay? That's the theme. What the story is all about. Okay? The general thought of the story. So, pwedeng mag-focus ka lang doon, okay? When you study a story, pwedeng yan lang yung focus mo. Like, for 5 pages, theme lang ang i-discuss mo. Okay? You can study as a literature that way. Okay? You can also study literature according to the entertainment value. So, pwedeng you can study Noli Me Tangere in the way and you will discuss how it entertained you. So like that. For richness of its plot. So kung para sa'yo, the story has an interesting plot. Okay? I hope you can still remember what is plot. It's the events that happened in the story. So that's the plot, right? The events that happened in the story. Di ba merong mga interesting plot? Have you ever experienced an interesting plot? Okay? Have you ever read an interesting plot? Diba may mga plot na nagsimula sa ending. Okay? May mga plot na nagsimula sa ending. May mga plot na nagsimula sa middle. Okay? That's what we call in medias res. There is what we call your circular plot. Okay? Yung plot na paulit-ulit. Okay? And walang simula, walang end. May mga ganon. So you can study the plot, okay, of the story. Pwedeng doon ka lang mag-focus. We have your character analysis. You can just focus with the character. Maglaan ka ng 20 pages para lang i-analyze ang character ng story. Pwedeng ganon. For comparison with other works. So pwede mo, you can compare this story to other story. You can study literature that way. Okay, for example, you will compare Ibong Adarna. You will compare Ibong Adarna to you will compare Ibong Adarna to Alamat ng Pinya. Okay, what's the similarities? What's the difference? And why did you compare it? So, things like that. You can compare Noli Me Tangere to El Filibusterismo. Okay? You can compare the characters in the story since connected lang naman yon. So, like that. Comparison. You can also analyze it according to its ideas. For example, in She's Dating a Gangster. Okay, that's a literature. That's a Wattpad, but that's a literature too. Okay, so you will compare the ideas presented in the story. Okay, so I think the idea of loving this kind of man is not really good. Okay, so you can analyze the idea presented by the story, or for its emotional power. Okay, for example, if you've read the story, if you've read the story, anong story nga yun? The Aged Mother. Okay, if you've read the story The Aged Mother, you will know that it's a very selfless it's a selfless love of a son to an old woman, to his mother. So pwede mong i-analyze 'yon, ang emotional power niya na, okay, I've cried a lot and things well after I read the book or the story, pwedeng ganon. You can also study it for its social reforms. There are story that awakened the spirit of people to fight against corruption, to fight against oppression. So you can study literature that way. Halimbawa, the stories of Jose Rizal, right? No Limitangere, El Filibusterismo. For example, the stories of Bob Ong, which talks about the society. So, pwedeng ganon yung pag-study mo sa literature. Next, for its representation of literary movements and techniques, okay? We have technical terms here, literary movements and techniques. So we will learn what are literary movements first and what are literary techniques so that we can expound this part, okay? Because in history kasi, there are literary movements like feminism, we have what are other literary movements? Naturalism, realism. So those are examples of literary movements. So if you want to study a literature under the feminism movement, you will study it based on how women are portrayed in the story. For example, in the story, magbigay tayo ng story. Okay, in the story of Ibong Adarna. Okay? Kasi mostly yun lang yung alam nating lahat. Kasi napagdaanan natin yun in high school, right? In the story Ibong Adarna, if you want to study it under the literary movement feminism, so you will study it based on how the story portrayed women. Okay? Si Maria, di ba? There's a character there which is Maria. So for you, okay, for example, you will study it. Maria is portrayed as a very strong woman in the story. So you will focus in the women. So if the female characters. So but if you want to study it under the movement of realism, you will study how realistic is the story. So pwedeng ganon. You can study literature that way according to the literary movements, okay? And literary techniques also. For example, the story used metaphor, the story used simile, pwedeng ganon. Okay? For the author's unique use of language, ito. Okay, meron tayong specific na field of knowledge that studies about the specific way authors write stories. Okay? Nakalimutan ko stylistics. Basta it's a branch of stylistics, okay? Stylistics is a branch of knowledge, okay? Stylistics is a branch of knowledge which studies how people write, okay? There is a branch of stylistics naman na you can learn the person's personality based on how he writes, okay? So pwedeng ganun, okay, yung gawin ninyo na study of literature. Halimbawa, you study the story of Shakespeare, and then based on the words that he uses, you analyze his personality, the personality of the author. For example, then you study the works of Jose Rizal, and then you analyze the words na ginamit ni Jose Rizal sa mga stories niya, and then you conclude his personality. Because that's a fact na whatever you write tells something about your personality. So you can focus your study of a story to that. Okay, the personality of the author based on how he writes. Okay, that is stylistics. We call that stylistics. And then lastly, for its reflection of life itself. So you can just simply give your own reflection about the story. Okay, so how it relates to you, how you felt about it, and things like that. So for its reflection of life itself. So these are the many ways we could study literature. We could study a story. And meron pang iba, there are also other ways that is in the module, but I did not include here, okay, in our discussion. Because these are what I think, okay, these are what I think the most common way in studying literature, in analyzing literature. Okay, so that's it. And again, let's review what we learned today. We learned about the definition of literature. We learned that it deals with the ideas, the thoughts, and emotions of man. We also learned that we should make a very thin division between artistic literature and non-artistic literature, academic writings, newspapers, and the like. Okay. We also learned the different qualities, the different criterion we should notice to judge a written work as artistic literature or not artistic literature. And lastly, a literary text can be studied in many, many ways, okay? And then we just had it just now, okay? So before we say goodbye, I have one challenge to you. Okay? Review muna tayo. Since this is part of the quiz para medyo matulungan kayo, let's do this activity. Okay. I'll ask someone. Okay. What quality is this? Nagbabasa ako. And then, while reading the book, I learned something. I learned about myself. I learned about a fact, about a trivia. What quality of literature does that book have? Okay. I learned something from the book. What quality of literature does the book have, Mr. Cadete? What quality of literature does the book have? I learned something from the book.
Intellectual value, sir.
Intellectual value.
Intellectual
Correct.
value.
Yes, that's correct. What quality of literature? Nagbabasa ako ng libro. I'm reading a book. And then, okay, I discovered more about myself. Okay, my moral. I got a revelation. Okay, my morals was improved. My moral is improved after reading the book. What value of literature is what value? What quality of literature does the book have, Mr. Makilang?
Spiritual values, sir.
Spiritual value. Very good. Okay. Nagbabasa ako ng libro and then I was overwhelmed with the emotions inside in the book. I cried, I became angry, I became afraid. What quality of literature does the book have, Miss Cortez?
Suggestiveness, sir.
Very good. Last na lang kasi wala nang time. Nagbabasa ako ng libro. Tapos, nakarelate ako. Very relevant siya sa aking buhay and very relevant siya sa buhay ng mga tao sa mundo. What quality of literature does the book have, Mr. Ladion?
Universality, sir.
Again?
Universality.
Okay.
Universality.
Very good. Universality. And how about this one? Wag na lang. Overtime na tayo. Okay, and you get the point. That's your introduction. Okay, that's your qualities of literature and definition of literature. Okay, meron pa pala akong tanong. Okay. Can we consider newspapers as literature, Mr. Narvaez?
Sir?
Can we consider newspapers?
Oo, sir. Kasi minsan
Yes.
naglalaman rin naman yun ng mga pwede natin matutunan kung saan mga trivia rin
Okay.
na
Okay. Okay, thank you very much for that, Mr. Narvaez. How about Mr. Okay, the question muna. Are literatures only written works? Are they only written works, Mr. Lavador?
No, sir.
Okay, ano pala ang other forms of literature?
Oral, sir.
Oral. Okay. So that's very good. I hope that you learned something in our first week. I hope na meron talaga kayo natutunang bago. Meron ba? Thumbs up kung meron.
Opo, meron po.
Yay. Thank you. Okay, now let's make a selfie attendance. Okay? Okay. Open your camera, Kate. Okay. 1, 2. Can you open your camera, Kate? Kung hindi, okay lang po. Okay lang. Sige na lang. Let's start. Okay? 1, 2, 3, go! Okay, that is all. Thank you very much, everyone. Kung meron pang tanong, I'm always ready to reply you sa ating Messenger and Schoology. Bye-bye. Papasukin na
Thank
yung
you,
B.
sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, sir.